Welcome to the AI experience from basics to breakthroughs. I'm Sirte Pihlaja, your host, the CEO at Trustworthy, and the CXP Finland head of team. In this series, we explore how artificial intelligence is reshaping customer and employee experiences, addressing the innovations, ethical questions, and strategies essential for navigating the world of artificial intelligence. Join us for this episode, and don't forget to subscribe to follow us on your favorite platform. Welcome back to the AI Experience podcast. I'm Sirte Pihlaja, and in this episode, we dive into the higher AI and EU legislation. I'm honored to be joined by Aura Salla, member of the European Parliament and a key voice in shaping Europe's digital future. Aura represents the Finnish National Coalition Party and plays an active role in the European Parliament, where she works on legislation and around digital services and e-commerce. She's known for her sharp insights, bold positions, and her vision for a Europe that fosters innovation, growth, and competitiveness rather than holding them back. In this episode, we explore what the EU AI regulation really means for businesses, consumers, and the future of Europe. We also talk about how Finland can rise through AI-driven growth and what political decisions are needed to ensure AI contributes to Europe's strategic strength. So welcome, Aura, to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a super interesting topic.
Cool. Let's drill into the questions right away. If we think about the AI Act and EU's approach, could you please shortly explain how the AI Act is aiming to achieve and what it is aiming to achieve, and what do you see as its biggest strengths and risks at the moment?
Well, I will need to start to say that it's not only the AI Act, right? Because we need to look at the whole maze of regulation that the EU has created during the last decade. So it really started from the copyright. You remember this like a fight that we had on famous Article 11 and 13 back in the days like 2014, 2015. And from there, it has been like a massive wave of regulation coming. And so good luck our companies trying to go through all this. So first of all, you need to, of course, everything comes back to data, as I'm always saying. So if you look at, you have a Data Act, a Data Governance Act, AI Act, then you have on top of that, of course, you always need to take into account GDPR and many, many others that might actually also concern you, what comes to cyber, for example, or indeed copyright. So it's like this jungle that our companies are trying to navigate at the moment. And then on top of that came this AI Act that had a super good aim. I think all of these regulations, if you think from the start, there was a good aim there, like, okay, we don't know where the AI is going, like what are the risks? And of course, in the EU, it's always this kind of ex ante thinking that, we need to regulate the risk away before there even is a risk. So it's like an opposite how the US is thinking, let them go, let them grow. And yes, they will make mistakes. Like teenagers, they do mistakes. Like our kids, they do mistakes. I joined Facebook when Cambridge Analytica had just happened. So I know something about what I'm talking about. So I mean, yeah, when there is a risk, but there is also innovation. There is also growth. There are also big companies. So the EU, you cannot have digital champions like a global players together with this maze of regulation. So you cannot have both. That would be my message at the beginning. And AI Act, the aim was really to put data and these companies and their actions to different risk categories, as we know. But then when the Commission gave the first paper, I thought, okay, we could even maybe work with this. It was too much, but at least, there were some elements that were okay. But then when it came to the Parliament and then to the Council, and that in the Parliament, there are people who want to just add because they see risks everywhere. So then it became like a Christmas tree. And in the end, we had like 300 pages of regulation that not even the best lawyers could actually read. So good luck trying to enforce that. and there are like uncertainty is the worst thing you can have for companies and for market. And then there was this code of practice exercise throughout the last year, where they tried to simplify and clarify the rules, but where they actually ended up was creating even more mess. And then Meta and others, they decided they will not join this code of practice. So it was an exercise that really didn't pay back. And now the Commission is saying, don't worry, we will have experts in Brussels who you can call when you try to enforce the AI Act. And sorry, but these experts are civil servants in the Commission. So I can say that these companies who are dealing with this regulation every day, first of all, they don't have the time and capacity to call some experts in Brussels. And second of all, that's not how you actually push forward innovation. So to answering to your question, I'm super worried. For me, this is something that the EU is getting completely wrong. And just ending maybe saying that you saw last week that the Commission proposed an AI strategy on top of everything. Basically, listing everything we already know, all the problems, all the challenges. And then they had one practical solution. They proposed digital applications for farmers. Like, really? This must be a joke. This just tells you the level of thinking in the Commission. So everyone who doesn't know all the EU institutions, the Commission is the cradle for civil servants. So you have like plus 30,000 civil servants who have never worked in the private sector, who have been there like 30 years, and they are the ones regulating our market and our companies. And voila, this is the result. Not saying that this house that I'm representing, the European Parliament, is any better, but at least you have some MEPs who have also worked in the real world, and we are accountable for our voters. So there might be someone listening today who actually voted for me, and I'm you need to hold me accountable to you, because I hope that you elected me to try to fight against all this nonsense that we are having. So I have a huge responsibility in that sense, but these civil servants, they don't. So that's also the gap that we see here. But yeah, answering a long way, as a politicians do, to your question, I am super worried about the AI Act on top of everything else.
Actually, one of our listeners shared a powerful reflection saying that they much prefer living as a citizen in the EU than in the AI Wild West of the US or China, but they also want Europe to remain competitive. So how would you concretely say that we could reconcile safety, ethics, and innovation if the AI Act is getting it sort of wrong at the moment?
That's a really good question. And I know that there is always this argument that, we have certain values in the EU, and this Anu Bradford's famous book that I disagreed from the very, very, very beginning, saying that, there's a Brussels effect, everyone will implement this kind of a rules, like nonsense. The US and China, Russia, they will never implement this kind of a set of regulation. They are just wired differently. So there might be some small countries that took some parts of some regulation, like from the GDPR, but no, it will never spread globally, because it's if you want to be competitive and if you actually want to build comprehensive security union, sorry, but you need data, you need high technology, and if you want to build new drones against Russia and its threat, I mean, sorry, but you need high tech. And how Ukraine succeeded was that actually they got a lot of help also from Silicon Valley, and they didn't have this kind of a set of regulation there. Good luck doing that in the EU. So answering to that question, I'm sorry, you cannot have both. But what you can have is definitely like base set of smart regulation. I would say GDPR, really good like principles, and I think fine-tuning GDPR when it comes to our private data, for example, super important. And when it comes to our private data, that's a different ballgame than metadata and behavioral data, and that we need to separate always. So I'm all for privacy, like that's That's one of the crucial aspects of free internet also. So definitely our private data only belongs to us, and data ownership, like our private data ownership is a principle in the EU, definitely. But then what we need to enable much more is metadata and behavioral data, like removing that cross-border, and then also like enabling this data to be used in a new data sets, in a new technology and more innovative environment, I would say. And yeah, there are some risks also what comes to innovation. But if we don't allow that at all, then you cannot have both. You cannot have competitive Europe and then like a, how would I say, this ex ante trying to swipe away risk wherever we see any hint of risk. So yeah, that would be my answer.
Do you believe that the EU and Finland in particular can at all remain competitive and become a leader in trustworthy, economically viable AI in the global AI race?
I think we can. Why? Because we have the talent. We really have the talent. I would say, even working for Meta, but I realized in the EU that we have a super set of talent. I mean, our engineering schools are top notch. We might not compete with Ivy League schools on many sectors with the US, but when it comes to engineering, we are really, really good. And we also have like talent that have experience from different sectors. So that's a good thing. But the problem is that we don't have harmonized market. And we have been trying to create that like 30 years. And then I love this petition on EU Inc. That, you know, these guys, when they came also to pitch that for me, and they were super eager to create this one business code, you know, in the EU. And I was like, I will do my utmost best to try to help you. But this has been we have been trying to do that for 30 years. So this is not something new. And the Commission will propose this 28 regime, which means that you would have access to this market, like maybe not Delaware in the United States, but at least you would have one business code, and you could move like information around 27 member states. But then when it comes to labor laws or taxation, I mean, super difficult because it's purely in the competence of member states. So getting that harmonized, I don't think that I will ever see it, but I hope that I can do my part and trying to push for that, because you really need one harmonized market. If you launch something in the US, think about your consumer market or even P2P market that you have there, but that you don't have in the EU. And then the second thing is that when you try to scale, you go to the United States mainly. We don't have that kind of a risk capital. We don't even have that kind of a culture. We are still leaning towards bank loans in the EU. And look at from Finland, for example, Sila AI or Volt, they went to the US to scale. So it's easier access to capital. So that worries me, of course. And there the EU is trying to do it its best, but it is difficult. We don't even have this kind of a culture of huge like angel investors like you have in the US. But I think we are getting there. Our venture capital culture is definitely developing in the EU. So I haven't given up hope there. So I think that will happen, at least to some extent. So talent, risk capital, harmonized market, and then this regulation, of course. This is huge problem. I would add one extra thing. It's the hunger that our companies have. If you go to the United States, somehow they are really eager to grow, to be big, like, I mean, huge. In the EU, when you get the middle size, then you sell the company and you are living nicely after that. And that's something that we should really change also if we want to have big companies, that, you know, it drives you to become big. And then also, I think we should allow bigger mergers in the EU to some extent. If you actually want to have huge success stories from the EU, if we avoid having actually big companies, that doesn't help our case either. So yeah.
Basically, you're saying that we don't have the kind of ambition, the level of ambition here in the EU. Do we have the capital in the markets to begin with? I mean, I've heard these discussions where they're saying that we don't even have the money to kind of compete with the US, for instance. And we don't, on the other hand, we don't have the Chinese way of kind of doing everything as a community in the sense that somebody directs in a totalitarian way, unfortunately, to drive the growth.
We don't even have the capital markets union, which we have been trying to push for a decade or 2 decades or almost. But that comes back to also the questions if, let's say, the Prime Minister of Finland is giving a big speech about the capital markets union, but at the same time, the member states are not ready to move on common insolvency law or, taxation harmonized, not even a bit, because it's in the competence of member states. So you don't really deal with real issues on capital markets union at the moment. And also pension funds. That's something that, we need to open our pension funds for more riskier investments. In Finland, we are going there now because we don't have any other option. But if you're looking at Denmark and many other countries, they are still not ready to invest to, let's say, defense. So if you don't open these pension funds where most of the funds in the EU are right now, it will be super difficult to actually create that kind of a capital market in the EU that is needed. And then no one wants to have a Chinese model or surveillance, for example. Well, maybe obviously Commission wants to have because they want to have this CSAM regulation, but normal people and who understands anything about technology would never ever want to create that kind of a surveillance model that China has. But that being said, of course, they have huge amount of data, and what is required when you develop AI is data, basically. So right now we are handing the data for free for Chinese companies, TikTok, Huawei, to the American companies, Meta, Google, Amazon, Apple. So literally Europeans are just using these products and giving their behavioral data, metadata for free. And this is just stupid. So that's something that I have been talking about also, that we should put price to our data. I would tax these companies much more, really tax them, not some cute little fines that the Commission is putting them now, because for them it's just cost of doing business. But we can actually add a price to our data and think about that from the tax perspective for these companies who come from the outside of the EU. So that's something that also could help our lack of capital in the EU.
Do you think that the EU regulations should go further in protecting the European data assets and maybe public procurement used more effectively to support the European tech players?
Absolutely. That's a key. So if we actually want to create a European digital champions, we must put our own companies first in the public procurement. Look at this horrific case with Microsoft, and they stopped access to emails of International Criminal Court's main prosecutors. So they can do that. That just shows us what they can do, and it's super worrying. And that's just also when we talk about a comprehensive security approach or putting our companies first, it's like a strategic autonomy. I mean, you need to start choosing European technology. That's just as simple as it is. And we have the public procurement directive in the EU that is fine-tuned by now. And I think we need the category that it's critical infrastructure, you choose European. The problem is that it is pricey because we don't really have companies who would offer you a software, cyber, and cloud all together like Microsoft does. So you need to choose different companies to cover all, and then it's more costly, for sure. But if you actually want to create a European digital autonomy, then you need to start doing that. and who is better positioned than public sector, EU institutions, our governments, our municipalities. They need to choose European tech, I would say. Start even with Linux, even it's a global governance, but still, I mean, you can do that and you should do that, because you are not really credible of speaking about strategic autonomy if you don't choose European yourself.
Talking about this European digital sovereignty in practice, what would you say are the other things? Are there any other things that we're still missing in the EU's strategic toolbox to really support our willingness to create this ethical AI, for instance?
To be honest, I just don't think that we need anything new from the EU at the moment. No toolbox, no strategies, like just let the market solve many of these issues also. And consumers are not, like, I feel sometimes that the EU is treating consumers like they are just stupid. And that the EU needs to take responsibility on everything possible. But I really believe in market-based solutions more. And don't get me wrong, I think we have a good set of, as I said, securing private data, GDPR, good things there, needs fine-tuning, but still. So, and consumer law. Yeah, okay, we need consumer law. But then at the same time, we have a high level of consumer protection. And then at the same time, Chinese Temu and Shein are just dumping their, sorry, my friends, but terrible products, let's put it that way, here, and we are buying it. I mean, you speak about sustainability and consumer protection, but then, okay, just you can order anything under 150 euros to Finland from China, and there is no talk about the consumer products or the quality of products, or think about packaging. So it's like the EU just doesn't get it right, so if we need anything ethical, any new regulation, it's only, I think, against Chinese companies and against American companies, because the way the DMA and DSA were built also during the last term, you could say immediately that you will not catch the big tech with these regulations. Definitely not. For these companies, Apple will fight until the end. Meta will not, comply. They comply as it's strategic for them. They give information that it's publicly available and it's okay for the commission. But they will like go around these regulations until the end, and they have army of lawyers. For them, it's cost of doing business, but it's harming our own companies. So it was built the wrong way around, and that's why I think we should actually spell out the problem. The problem is China, and problem is America, and how we do, we should think about it as a trade, definitely. So we have companies on steel market now fighting. We have companies on food market. There are tariffs. It's like a normal trade policy in many sectors. But when it comes to immaterial rights, or when it comes to data, when it comes to our high technology companies, it's like a free exchange. So it doesn't make any sense, because data is highly valued, and that's the food for AI. So that's why we need to start actually handling it like that. So if we need anything more, my answer is that we need that for against China and the US and our consumer protection. But other than that, I would not regulate more in the EU.
You mentioned that you had been working for Meta previously yourself. So what lessons, this is again a question that we got from our audience. So they wanted to know, what lessons did you learn when you were working at Meta about how tech giants influence regulation? And do you feel their methods were ethically sound now that you're yourself on the other side of the table, so to speak?
I would say that for me, it was a huge deal of joining Meta. I was working in the commission, and I left the commission, and I got a call from a headhunter asking me to apply for this position as a head of EU policy. And I said immediately, like over my dead body, I would go there to that company, because exactly for ethical reasons. Cambridge Analytica just happened and so on. And but then I think they had a really good point that Aura, if you're talking about these things, how credible you are if you have never seen it inside. And after 9 rounds of interviews, I had a Nick Clegg interview, the last, and the former deputy prime minister of the UK. And I asked him, like, why do you join Facebook? And he said, Aura, I would love to be a prime minister in the UK, but this is the next best thing because you can actually change things, because this company has more power than the UK government. And really good point. And then I thought, okay, I will go there. And, I want to see it from the inside. And I highly recommend everyone to read the book, The Careless People. It's written by my former colleague from the company, and one of the very brave ones. I know that Meta tried to stop the advertisement of the book, but please read it. So there is your answer from my side. But to be honest, what I actually learned is so much how this kind of the mindset of this kind of a company, and like I every time I hear these conversations about their social responsibility and so on, these companies are privately owned companies, and the aim is to make money for the stock owners, right? That's it. The aim is to make money. Aim is not to change the world work better. Definitely not. So whenever you deal with these companies, keep that in mind, right? But how the change comes to these companies is from the market and from consumers, because they need consumers. So one thing that I think public got wrong is that, it's this kind of a super hateful behavioral or hate speech and so on. That doesn't actually bring money to these companies. So there, I think media got it wrong, because if you can see it really what influences people, it's actually positive behavioral. As a politician, if I try to post something on social media, normally it is your children, your cats, and your smiley face. Those are the 3 things that are triggered by the algorithm. So so there are some things that media got wrong, or the public debate got wrong. But still saying that, I would say that, of course, they go where the money is. That's the thing. They buy smaller companies, so there is no competition. They have so much data that it's impossible to catch them. And also, like, when they deal with the commission or public entities, it's goes without saying, but it always comes from their own angle, and it's interesting. But that's what happens when you go to work somewhere. You get to this bubble, and you are only looking at it from that angle. And I learned so much about data, how they are handling data, how they think about data, how they think about how their business model works, how their different business models work. And also, how they think about the future of technology, and how the metaverse is the biggest thing ever for them, for example. And when you are in that kind of a company, you are living like in the future. So when I came out from the company, and nowadays in the parliament, it's like going 10, 15 years back. But that being said, the company has changed a lot. We did the right things. With Nick Clegg, he did right things, like really fighting against disinformation, misinformation, setting in place the right things, the tools to prevent many, many things. And then I left the company to go to the Finnish Parliament. I always knew that I want to work on politics. So for me, that was just a sidekick and a really good one. But still, the company did the right things. And then the second Trump administration happened, and, oh my God. Well, Nick Clegg left, and, the company has changed so much. Now they are posing next to Trump. They allow hate speech against women in the US. They allow disinformation in the US. And they are saying, oh, it's only because of free speech. Oh my God. There are also some responsibilities that you need to take. So they need to respect the rules in the EU. They literally fight against the AI Act. Well, I haven't met them anymore. For me, it was too much what they have been doing. But yeah,
I was actually going to
yeah.
ask you about the how you see the willingness and really readiness of American companies to adopt the European regulation, because every single time there's like say an OpenAI announcement that they have a new feature coming out, it always kind of rolls out in the US, but then no, we can't do this in the EU because the regulation prevents us from doing it, whereas it might not have anything to do, at least to me, it hasn't got anything to do with the actual like requirements of regulation, but rather something to do with their own agenda, let's say.
So it's actually, they think about it from the business perspective. Does it make sense to launch this in the EU? Will it make money? Because first we need to have 50 lawyers checking Data Act, Data Governance Act, DSA, DMA, blah, blah, blah. So maze of regulation. It takes so much time. It takes effort. It takes money. So, I mean, yes, of course, it's to do with regulation. Can they do it? Absolutely, they can do it. Do they want to do that? Then that's the answer that you need. But it all comes back to, does it make sense for business? Does it make money? These companies are not there to please European customers in Finland and offering these applications in Finnish, because that's also the thing that you need to always remember in the EU, that most of the time, if you are in consumer business, you need to also translate these in the local languages for it to make a business case. Yet again, hassle and extra effort and so on. So I actually know that it's to do with the regulation, but the question is, can they do that? Yes, they can do that. But normally it comes just a little bit later to the EU. They go first to other markets, they test it in the other markets, and just realizing in the EU that you cannot talk about the EU per se, because you cannot enter to the market like this. You still go to 27 different member states, and then you go to the UK on top of that. So sometimes we treat ourselves a little bit like, we think that we are more important than we are. So coming back to your question, yes, it's to do with the regulation. Yes, it's to do with the unharmonized market. And yes, it also to some extent has to do with our languages and the way our different market areas are built.
Coming back to the Apply AI strategy that the European Commission just launched to accelerate AI deployment in sectors like healthcare, public administration, and so on. You've publicly critiqued it for lacking concrete solutions. So if you had 90 seconds, make that 60 now, to rewrite that strategy's core actions, what would you propose instead to make AI actually scalable and usable in the EU?
We need to spell it out now. We need to deregulate. I'm sorry, it's not a bad word. This was a joke that they launched last week. I'm sorry, it is. Like, at the same time, they will propose Digital Networks Act and Digital Fairness Act, right? In the Digital Fairness Act, my worry is that they will bake in everything that was left out from the DSA and other regulations. It will become a Christmas tree. We will have these same fights again. And if they will propose yet again the fair share in Digital Networks Act, which was maybe Reding 15 years ago first launched there, and every commission tries to push it forward. Like, it's really frustrating sometimes. Like, they don't just see how the market works and what these companies actually need. So we need to deregulate. And yes, it will cause some uncertainty to the market, like people asking, like, wait a second, you just launched the AI Act. You are not expecting us now to enforce or not? But in the long run, I think it's a necessity.
Okay. At our upcoming CX Masterclass in November, we'll be deep diving into how agentic AI and machine customers are reshaping services as we know them. AI systems are becoming more autonomous, acting as agents, as our assistants, even as customers themselves. These developments raise a concern whether EU policy can and is really keeping up with the speed and nature of the ongoing changes. So at the moment, EU is moving ahead with digital identity initiatives like the European Business Wallet, EUBW, and the EU Digital Identity Wallet, EUDIW, which are aiming to enable this secure and trusted interactions between individuals and then businesses and governments as well. What is your view on these efforts to authenticate consumers and businesses more effectively? Could you maybe explain what these initiatives first aim to achieve, and do you consider yourself then to be good examples of smart regulation that supports digital trust and innovation in Europe?
Yeah, so these are not initiatives, these are like already happening. So basically it means that, for example, here in Belgium, we have the It's Me app application that you can log into any service what comes to my health, my public services. I need that It's Me app. Super easy. You can the same way we have in Finland that you use your banks. So in Finland, I have a Nordea app. In Belgium, I have my It's Me app. It's Me app is created by the Belgian government. In Finland, we left it to our banks, so the private sector. But now, because it's the EU that is forcing this, you need to have in Finland, Sweden, you need to have this kind of a digital application that then also is verified throughout the EU. Why is the good thing? First of all, I don't think that we should have done it so that it needs to be public entity that creates this. I think it should have been like Nordea or KBC, they could have done it. Like they all use blockchain technology, right? So it could have been a private sector based solutions, but fine, in the EU you always want to have something public. So now the public entities, public governments, they are creating these kind of applications. But one thing that is good is that, because the whole idea of the EU is that you have a free movement of labor. And for example, I have been going back and forth Belgium and Finland. I can never move my, any data, my personal data. I didn't have access to my pension or tax files in 2 years because I didn't have access for my It's Me app because I didn't have an address in Belgium. So I had an accountant here who actually only had access to my services. But if Finland would have had this application, then I could have had the access there. So that's the whole aim there, that you have one market and one labor market, and people can access to their private data through these apps that are using blockchain technology. So it is secured data. Government is not going to your data. There is no privacy questions here. Or if you have with Nordea or KPC, the same thing. But as you know, they don't get access to your data. It's encrypted data, so it's not that it's a privacy issue. But I understand the aim there. Also moving around in the EU a lot, that I should always have access to my own data. That's my private right. So, and the same thing with businesses. So that's the story behind this, and it's not initiative, as I said, it's already reality. I think if you go now to check, there were maybe 12 governments who already have this application. Finland is not there yet, so let's see when we will have our own It's Me app then in Finland. But until now, we are using these Nordea and Osuuspankki and whatever applications.
It's used for KYC, know your customer. How about KYA, know your agent? So do you think that these identity mechanisms could be then utilized also to understand and make sure that the agent that is shopping online for example, myself, could be then authenticated using this EU DIW? So if I am sending my agent to do my shopping instead of myself, so I don't need to go to 50 different online stores to do my shopping. So if I give it my preferences, it will make a recommendation, find something for me, and go ahead and buy it if I let it do that.
So you allow this third party to do that. You are giving access, you are giving right to this third party, right? So who is accountable? So then, of course, you are accountable. Yeah, of that.
Yeah, that was like
yeah, if you think about it, I have a cleaning lady coming to my house and I need to trust her. I give my keys and access to my private home. And if she does there something, then whose responsibility is it? Is it the cleaning company? Is it me? It depends, of course, what kind of a crime she is committing. But I have an also then agreement with the cleaning company, what is their insurance, what is my insurance, and how we are handling that. But that's the question. When you are giving the access, when you are, okay, I would never give maybe access to some third party for my credit card, but then if I make the final decision of buying, if she like gives me the options, maybe that way. But it always comes back to the person who is allowing access or who is giving the rights. And then you also decide if you trust Nordea or KBC or It's Me app in Belgium to open something. But it needs to have your identification backing that data and allowing some third party to access there.
Okay. If I look ahead a little bit about Finland's role and the way forward, what would you suggest that Finland could do right now to lead in the AI space? Because that's really something that we need to, at least as a country, to get out of this economic slump that we have been in for the last 17 or 20 years. So AI seems to me, at least, as the silver bullet, so to speak, to get this productivity giant step forward with it.
Well, first of all,
recipe.
First of all, we need to talk about these things that we spoke this morning. I mean, come on, why don't you fight against this regulation? I know the EU is super complex, but you have a commissioner on technology who is pushing for more regulation. Why don't you fight against it? People need to realize that this is a huge deal what the EU has been doing. And I know I spoke with many of the newspapers. They have been writing a lot of stories about me throughout the years, trying to address these things. And they say they don't get clicks. And people only who are super deep in the technology, they are worried, as I am. But it's not enough. You need to somehow raise the awareness how worrying this regulation. And it's always like, oh, but we need to be secured. No, we need to be able to take risk. That would be my first thing. Please be publicly also, loud about these things. This is crucial. Second thing is, in the AI Act, it is obligatory for member states to create a regulatory sandbox. So the countries should actually compete against each other, creating the best possible sandbox, in my opinion. And I have been pushing this in Finland, and I think it's now in the one of the ministries, I think in a labor ministry. So we should have the best possible regulatory sandbox where companies are allowed to innovate without the EU AI Act catching them, or they should pay some fines. So instead of them calling to Brussels like, what am I allowed to do? They should have a safe space, a free space in Finland to do that. So that's one thing that concretely Finland should do right now. And it should be at the Prime Minister's desk right now, trying to make that regulatory sandbox happen. I know in Spain, for example, they are giving quite huge tax reliefs for the tech sector. Makes complete sense. That's one concrete action. Because you need talent and you need these growing companies. So to attract talent, you need to have some kind of a tax reliefs for these people, for them to come to Finland, for them to have their family in Finland and grow these businesses. And then also, I would say that it's really about also marketing. I'm sorry, guys, but we all know our story about Nokia. We might have the best possible engineering work, but then if you are not able to tell your story, if you are not able to market it, it doesn't matter. It's like the same thing. It didn't happen if it was not on social media, like some politicians say. But I mean, you need to be able to tell your story. Finland has the best possible story. We are the happiest country in the world, right? So, but somehow we are not able to sell these stories around our companies, and our high tech. So that's something that I think we should get better at. I don't have a silver bullet, but those would be the points that I would highlight.
There is a tendency at the moment in Finnish companies to do just small things towards getting AI out in organizations. So we're not really striving to become these AI native organizations and really 3x or 5x or 10x or 100x our productivity, but rather, use these co-pilots and like other AI tools to just try and make personal productivity like 10% more. But that doesn't give the whole like Finland as a country a big push forward, which we would need at the moment. How would you instruct or advise organizations, both on the public side and then the commercial companies on the commercial side, to really put their minds into how to push this AI agenda and become AI native companies, so that actual processes and whole companies would then take big leaps forward?
I think in Finland we have a problem that we try to focus more on, like, how would I say, bulk work of technology. I mean, like, we are happy about the data centers or this kind of a infrastructure that doesn't actually add value. It's needed, like Lumi Computer, for example, top notch. I mean, like, guys are doing excellent work. We have like many good examples of this kind of like where we try to get EU gigafactories to Finland, and but that's an infrastructure that I would claim that actually will become if you have successful companies. So we are thinking this the wrong way around, that we are trying to build an infrastructure, but we don't have really scalable products. Or we have, like, Silo AI is a great example of that, but then they go to the US because of the lack of risk capital, I would say. So this hungriness, this ambition that you need is that, infrastructure is not something that will pay the bills. It will be these high innovations that will pay the bills. And you need the whole ecosystem around that. So you need those universities of applied sciences, and you need companies, and you need that ecosystem to be super tight. In my home country, Lappeenranta, together with Lahti, they have great examples of this kind of, startup hubs, and, that they try to actually help companies to scale, but it's not enough because, they don't have the ambition and hungerness and that visibility, I would also say, in the EU market that is needed. And you need to, like, your mindset needs to be immediately the EU market is the home base, and then you scale globally. You need venture capitals, yes, you do, and you need that risk capital, but you also need willingness to invest to scale, and also think differently in that sense that we really need to think about the added value and companies that are able to compete at the global state, and not focus so much on infrastructure around it. That would be, I think, the first thing I would say.
Very good. We are closing the end of this episode, but I just wanted to ask you one more question. What gives you hope about the future of AI in Europe?
I think the listeners of this podcast also, I hope, because I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and there is amazing community around technology. And thank you guys for fighting with me, because I feel like whenever I post there something around these issues, I have like companies from all over the EU saying exactly that's what we need, and we need to deregulate. We need to understand technology and business around it much better, and so on. So I think there will be a power in community more than we thought, but we need to just do this together, and we need to be quite frank, because I hate this kind of a political speech where you go around and you talk about, oh, it's important to have a harmonized market. Yeah, but what does it mean? You need to then have common insolvency laws. You need to give actual concrete actions and make it happen at the high political level. And I can see that when you are pushing something, when you try to kill the bill on CSAM, and I have been really literally every day trying to push for that in every member state. We have a great community around the EU around that. I think we will kill the bill, but it needs to have ambassadors and effort to do that. But yeah, I would say that we have a huge tech community, and so let's do this together. That's the only way we can succeed.
I think there's even a movie made about that, Kill Bill.
Yeah.
So, Aura, where can our audience follow you, your work, and your thoughts if they wish to, and maybe contact you if they wish to talk more about these things with you?
I don't want to advertise my previous company, so I'm saying that LinkedIn is a great platform because I think there the conversation level is super high. So I like it, and thank you for contacting and connecting me there. And I have a team of 5 people in Brussels, actually, and in Helsinki. So we have some power here. So email us and connect in LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram. I am on Facebook still, and then I'm using Blue Sky.
Cool. We'll make sure to put all your links underneath there for this episode. Thank you, Aura, very, very much for joining us. This has been a great discussion. You have some really interesting views on how to make this AI happen on an EU level, and I certainly hope that everything goes well and you do get to help us get this country further with this artificial intelligence endeavors that we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
This conversation has shed light on how the EU is navigating the complex path between innovation and regulation, and why it matters not just for policymakers and developers, but for everyone using and experiencing digital services every day. For our listeners, if you're working in CX, EX, or AI, don't miss our upcoming CX Masterclass this November, where we will go even deeper into topics like agentic AI, machine customers, and real-world applications of AR. We've got more inspiring interviews coming up in the next weeks, so make sure to follow us on your favorite platform and visit aiexperience.fi to stay in the loop. Until next time, stay curious and stay human. Thank you for tuning into the AI experience from basics to breakthroughs. We hope today's conversation sparked new ideas and insights on your AI journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe for more discussions with leading experts in AI, customer experience, and innovation. Join us next time as we continue to explore the transformative power of artificial intelligence.